beginning May 20, 1863. Seventh-day Adventists were invited to meet for the purpose of organizing a general conference by the following call, which appeared in the Advent Review, Volume 21, Number 23, May 5, 1863. General Conference. There will be a general conference of Seventh-day Adventists at Battle Creek, Michigan, to commence Wednesday, May 20th, at 6:00 p.m. The objects of this meeting, for the general good of the cause of Bible truth and holiness everywhere, have been specified in the review. The several conference committees in the different states are requested to send delegates, or letters at their discretion. The brethren in those localities where there is no state conference, can also be represented in this conference by delegates or letters. All delegates and letters must be sanctioned by some state conference, or conference committee, or where there are no state conferences, some church, or meeting of scattered brethren. James White, J. N. Loughborough, John Byington. Michigan Conference Committee. General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. First Annual Meeting. May 20, 1863. The General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists convened according to appointment at Battle Creek, Michigan, May 20th, at 6:00 p.m. The meeting was temporarily organized by choosing J. M. Aldrich, Chairman, and U. Smith, Secretary. The conference was then opened by singing the hymn on page 233, and prayer by Brother Snook. A committee to receive and judge of the credentials of delegates being called for, it was voted that we have a committee of 3 on credentials. The following brethren were thereupon chosen as that committee: Elder J. N. Loughborough, of Michigan, C. O. Taylor, of New York, and Isaac Sanborn, of Wisconsin. The remainder of this session was occupied in the presentation of credentials to the committee, and the meeting adjourned to the following morning, May 21st, at 9:00. In the morning session, the committee announced the following brethren as the duly elected delegates from their respective states: from New York, brethren J. N. Andrews, N. Fuller, C. O. Taylor, and J. M. Aldrich; from Ohio, I. N. Van Gorder; from Michigan, the ministers present from that state, namely, brethren White, Bates, Waggoner, Byington, Loughborough, Hull, Cornell, and Lawrence, with a lay representation of brethren James Harvey, of North Liberty, Indiana, and William S. Higley Jr., of Lapeer, Michigan; from Wisconsin, Isaac Sanborn; from Iowa, brethren B. F. Snook, and W. H. Brinkerhoff; from Minnesota, Washington Morse. The report of the committee was accepted. Voted that Brother H. F. Baker be received as an additional delegate from Ohio. The following brethren were then appointed a committee to draft a constitution and bylaws for the government of this conference: brethren J. N. Andrews, N. Fuller, I. Sanborn, W. Morse, H. F. Baker, B. F. Snook, J. H. Waggoner, and J. N. Loughborough. After due deliberation, the committee presented the following constitution for the consideration of the conference. Constitution of General Conference. For the purpose of securing unity and efficiency in labor, and promoting the general interests of the cause of present truth, and of perfecting the organization of the Seventh-day Adventists, we, the delegates from the several state conferences, hereby proceed to organize a general conference, and adopt the following constitution for the government thereof. Article 1. This conference shall be called the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. Article 2. The officers of this conference shall be a president, secretary, treasurer, and an executive committee of 3, of whom the president shall be 1. Article 3. The duties of the president and secretary shall be such respectively as usually pertain to those offices. Article 4. It shall be the duty of the treasurer to receive and disperse means under the direction of the executive committee, and keep an account of the same, and make a full report thereof to the regular meetings of the conference. Article 5. Section 1. It shall be the duty of the executive committee to take the general supervision of all ministerial labor, and see that the same is properly distributed, and they shall take the special supervision of all missionary labor, and as a missionary board shall have the power to decide where such labor is needed, and who shall go as missionaries to perform the same. Section 2. Means for missionary operations may be received by donation from state conferences, churches, or individuals, and the committee are authorized to call for means when needed. Section 3. When any state conference desires ministerial labor from a minister not resident within the bounds of such conference, their request shall be made to the General Conference Executive Committee, and ministers sent by said committee shall be considered under the jurisdiction of the Conference Committee of such state. Provided, 1. That if such minister consider the state committee inefficient, or their action so far wrong as to render his labor ineffectual, he may appeal to the General Conference Executive Committee. Provided, 2. That if such state committee consider such minister inefficient, they may appeal to the General Conference Committee, who shall decide on the matter of complaint, and take such action as they may think proper. Article 6. Each state conference shall be entitled to 1 delegate in the General Conference, and 1 additional delegate for every 20 delegates in the state conference, such delegates to the General Conference to be chosen by the state conferences or their committees. Provided that the delegates to such state conferences be elected according to the following ratio, to wit, each church to the number of 20 members or under shall be entitled to 1 delegate, and 1 delegate for every additional 15 members. Article 7. The officers shall hold their offices for the term of 1 year, and shall be elected at the regular meetings of the conference. Article 8. Section 1. The regular meetings of the conference shall be held annually, and the time and place of holding the same shall be determined by the Executive Committee, by whom due notice thereof shall be given through the review. Section 2. Special meetings may be called at the option of the committee. Article 9. This constitution may be altered or amended by a 2/3 vote of the delegates present at any regular meeting, provided that any proposed amendment shall be communicated to the Executive Committee, and notice thereof given by them in their call for the meeting of the conference. The report was accepted and the committee discharged. The conference then took up the reported constitution item by item, for consideration and discussion, which resulted in its entire adoption. The conference being now ready for a permanent organization, it was voted that a committee of 3 be appointed to nominate officers to act under the constitution already adopted. Brethren William S. Higley, James Harvey, and B.F. Snook were appointed as that committee. Adjourned to 1:00 p.m. Afternoon session. Prayer by Brother Cornell. The Committee on Nominations reported as follows. For President, James White. Secretary, Uriah Smith. Treasurer, E. S. Walker. Executive Committee, James White, John Byington, J. N. Loughborough. Report accepted and committee discharged. On motion, the conference proceeded to vote on the nominations presented. Brother White was unanimously chosen president, but declined to serve. After a considerable time spent in discussion, the brethren urging reasons why he should accept the position, and why he should not, his resignation was finally accepted, and Elder John Byington elected as president in his stead. The nominations for secretary and treasurer were then ratified. J. N. Andrews and G. W. Amadon were chosen as the remaining members of the executive committee. On motion of Brother Loughborough it was voted that, as one object of the General Conference is to secure uniformity of action throughout all the states, a committee of 5 be appointed to draw up a constitution for state conferences, to be recommended to the brethren in the different states, that there may be uniformity in the matter of state conferences. The following brethren were then chosen as that committee: Brethren Sanborn, of Wisconsin; Brinkerhoff, of Iowa; Aldrich, of New York; Loughborough, of Michigan; and Morse, of Minnesota. On motion of Brother Waggoner it was voted that this conference recommend to the Publishing Association to publish a new prophetic chart. Voted that we recommend to the Publishing Association to publish a chart of the 10 Commandments, suitable for public lectures. The next business brought before the conference was the matter which the Battle Creek Church at a special meeting, March 29, 1863, as reported in the Review, number 18, voted to lay before the General Conference, in relation to the charges and reports that are in circulation concerning Elder James White. As no one had reported any grievances pertaining to the subject in hand, according to the request in the Review, the committee could only report that fact to the conference, and place in its hands the more than 70 fervent testimonials which have been received on the other side, with the recommendation that, as it seemed that no one dared appear to sustain the aforesaid reports, some action be taken by this conference to show the falsity of these reports, and vindicate before the world the character and course of Brother White. On this matter the following resolutions were adopted. Resolved, that the committee employed by the Battle Creek Church be empowered to act further in this matter in behalf of this conference, and prepare for publication a record of the action of the Battle Creek Church relative to the accusations against Brother James White, and the substance of the responses received. Resolved, that this committee shall invite, through the Review, further responses on this subject, for the space of 2 months. Adjourned to evening after the Sabbath, at 7:30. Met again according to adjournment. Prayer by Brother Andrews. The committee appointed to draft a constitution for state conferences, reported through its chairman, J. N. Loughborough, the form of a constitution for the consideration of the conference. This was examined item by item, and after full discussion it was voted that this conference recommend the following form of constitution to the different state conferences. Constitution for state conferences. Whereas, we have before us the great work of disseminating light upon the commandments of God, the faith of Jesus, and the truths connected with the third angel's message, and whereas, order, union, and concentration of action in the dissemination of these truths is of the utmost importance, therefore, resolved, that we adopt the following Constitution, as recommended by the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, assembled at Battle Creek, Michigan, May 20, 1863. Article 1. Section 1. This conference shall be known as the Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and shall be composed of all ministers in good standing and delegates from organized churches within its limits. Article 2. Section 1. The officers of this conference shall be a president, secretary, treasurer, and an executive committee of 3, of whom the president shall be 1, and they shall be elected annually. Section 2. The duties of the president and secretary shall be such as usually pertain to those offices respectively. Section 3. It shall be the duty of the treasurer to keep an account of the receipts and disbursements of the conference funds, to pay out the same under the directions of the executive committee, and to make an annual report thereof at the regular meetings of the conference. Section 4. It shall be the duty of the executive committee to appoint through the Review the time and place of the annual conferences, and to call special conferences, whenever in their judgment it may be needful so to do, to call on the churches and scattered brethren for means when needed, and to disperse the same, to take the general supervision of all tent operations, and property belonging to the conference, to audit and settle accounts with ministers and others in the employ of the conference, and to exercise a general watch care over all matters pertaining to the interests of the cause within the bounds of the conference. Article 3. Section 1. Conference funds shall be raised from the proceeds of systematic benevolence, and by gifts and donations. Section 2. We recommend that all churches belonging to this conference adopt the plan of systematic benevolence on the tithing principle, as set forth on first page of our systematic benevolence books. Section 3. The churches and scattered brethren within the bounds of this conference will be expected to pledge to the executive committee the amount that they will give each month during the conference year, for the support of the ministers and tent operations, and for such other purposes as may be necessary for the advancement of the cause, said sums to be paid to the treasurer monthly, when convenient so to do, or at the commencement of every quarter, viz., on the 1st of April, July, October, and January, except when it be preferable to give it, or a portion of it, directly to preachers who labor among them. Section 4. The churches will be expected to make a report to the secretary at the end of each quarter, of the amount they have sent to the treasurer, or paid to preachers, during such quarter. Section 5. It shall be the duty of ministers to report to the secretary at the end of each quarter the amount they have received and expended during such quarter, and at the end of each year they shall make a written report to the regular meetings of the conference of the entire amount of their receipts and expenditures during such conference year. Article 4. Section 1. When any church or scattered brethren wish ministerial labor in their vicinity, their call shall be made to the Executive Committee. Section 2. It shall be the duty of the churches in this conference to send a written report to the regular meetings of the conference of their standing, their losses and additions during the year, also the yearly amount of their systematic benevolence fund. Article 5. Section 1. It shall be the duty of the conference to determine who are the approved ministers within the bounds thereof, to grant suitable credentials to the same at each regular meeting, and during the interval of such meeting the Executive Committee shall perform such duties. Section 2. Those who feel it their duty to improve their gifts as messengers or preachers, shall first lay their exercises of mind before the Conference Committee, to receive a license from them, if the committee consider them qualified. Article 6. Section 1. It shall be the duty of the ministers of this conference to make a written report to each annual meeting thereof, of their labors each week during the conference year. Article 7. Section 1. The delegates to this conference shall be elected according to the following ratio: each church to the number of 20 members or under shall be entitled to 1 delegate, and 1 delegate for every additional 15 members. Section 2. In case all the delegates to which any church is entitled do not attend the conference, the delegates attending may cast the full number of votes to which said church is entitled. Article 8. Section 1. This constitution may be amended at any regular meeting of the conference by a 2/3 vote of the members present, provided such amendment shall not conflict with the constitution of the General Conference. The Michigan State Conference having appointed a committee to frame a series of rules and regulations to suggest to those building and holding meeting houses, and to report to the General Conference, the report of said committee was called for and submitted. The report was accepted. It was then voted that J. N. Andrews, James White, and U. Smith be a committee to take this matter into consideration, and at some future time to report through their review. To this committee Brethren Byington and Waggoner were afterward added. Voted that this conference issue a pamphlet containing the minutes of this conference, together with the address on organization, issued by the Battle Creek Conference of October 5 and 6, 1861, also that the minutes of this conference be published in the Review. Voted that we recommend state conferences to publish in pamphlet form the minutes of their proceedings, and distribute to their churches. Adjourned. Signed I. John Byington, Chairman. U. Smith, Secretary.